Hi, I'm Miles Noel from COMTEX. All of us here at COMTEX are partnering with you as you seek to provide the highest quality healthcare to each and every one of your patients. Every week at COMTEX, we launder over 850,000 pounds of linen and textiles for return delivery to you. Last year alone, we recovered $500,000 worth of personal items and hospital instruments hidden in linen we received. Items we find in the linen include things like patient wallets, cell phones, nurse wedding rings attached to their scrub suits, telemetry units, operating instruments, and sharps of every kind. This not only has an economic and safety impact on our facilities and staff, but also on you and your patient's experience. In an effort to minimize these economic and personal risks to all of us, we're outlining the top 10 things to keep in mind as you strip beds and clean operating rooms.
Number 10 has to do with rework. Yeah, we'll have 450 pounds of surgical linen in one load, and if there's a sharp item in that load, as it tumbles through the dryer or the washer during its process, those sharps can tumble with the linen. It just damages it in general. Anything that's got ink on it, it dilutes in the wash water and then spreads throughout the entire load. One item could damage dozens of surgical pieces. The rework process for the surgical linen is individual has to inspect that item after it's been laundered, and if they find some damage, that item has to be repaired, and then that item will have to go back through the wash process and come back to the pack room, be re-inspected, then folded before it makes it to the final destination of a surgical pack. So the rework is that whole additional step of repair and re-laundering.
Number 9, expense reduction. There is a cost impact when items other than linen end up in our wash and dry loads. For example, on an annual basis, it costs $130,000 to remove plastics and other foreign objects from linen. $25,000 is spent on utilities to re-dry wet loads. $20,000 is spent on replacing lint screens. $38,000 in trash removal and recycling. Plastic hardens in the dryers, which can cause damage to linen. An item such as a surgeon gown can cost over $100 a piece. The most dangerous material that comes into COMTEX are scalpels and sharps. A needle stick or a puncture to an employee can cost over $100,000 in a claim.
Number 8 is the carbon footprint. The lint screen problem with plastic melted in the drums and the lint screens greatly affects the productivity of a plant and the carbon footprint, obviously with usage of additional gas and manpower. Each load goes into a sling on the clean side. You don't know that the load is dry or not dry until you drop the load at the workstation. So it affects the whole cycle of productivity. And in many cases, you do not achieve that dryness at the end of a cycle. Obviously, you have to spend more gas on a new cycle, occupy the equipment that has to be free for productivity. So it's a great effect on the carbon footprint.
Number 7, production equipment. Cleaning the lint screens requires a guy to take a wire brush and just scrape them. When that no longer does the job, we have to physically remove the screen, and we use an open flame torch to burn the plastic out of the screen. And then in addition to that, every time you burn the screens, it reduces the life cycle of the screen itself, and so eventually you have to replace it with a brand new one. We have almost 20 industrial-sized dryers. Every evening I have one guy who's got probably the hardest job in the building. He has to climb inside a confined space, and he's physically chipping away and scraping away at built-up plastic inside of the drum. It's every night for 8 hours a night. It's a never-ending process.
Number 6 is work efficiencies. It boils down to about 3 basic things, the safety and the production and the efficiencies of the machine. Safety is involved on the production flow up at the top when we're sorting. We don't want the staff to be injured by any sharps or garbage or things that shouldn't be in the linens. The process of them getting those isolated and taking out can slow the production flow down. And then when the stuff doesn't get caught or anything gets into the dryers or the washers, then you're talking about the efficiencies of the machine slow down. The economic impact on us is it slows production down to where we might have to cause overtime. And then the efficiencies of the machines, if they break down or something happens because of the objects in the linen, there's a cost there on fixing the machines. And the cost of getting all this garbage out of here and into the landfills, those prices go up all the time. Therefore, the prices of the customers may be impacted.
Number 5 is staff safety. Some of the items that we have found in the linen that have been dangerous have been scalpels. We have also found needles, scissors, telemetry units, CPR monitors in the linen, telemetry poles in the linen. Any kind of medical instrument you can think of in a surgery operating room, we have found in our linen. Some of the things that the hospital staff and customers can do is making sure that any sharps are put into their sharps containers in their rooms, as well as making sure that before they leave the operating room that they clean up all the instruments, put those in the proper containers as well. And when they're folding up the beds, making sure that just linen and not any patient belongings, any needles, sharps, anything like that, that they're throwing into the hamper stand as well.
Number 4, customer satisfaction. When a nurse or environmental services takes down a bed, items are caught in between crevices and they can't see it, meaning that would be where the personal items and hospital items end up in the soiled linen. When a patient's staying at a hospital, there's a lot of stress that include the physical aspect. But when an item is misplaced, there's an emotional aspect because they have an emotional attachment to the item they've lost. When we locate that item, it changes the aspect of the experience for the hospital and also for COMTEX because there's a lot of pride in the staff finding those items for those patients. Last year, COMTEX was able to recover over $500,000 worth of product, which included telemetry units, surgical items, surgical drills, heart monitors, IV poles, you name it, we found it.
Number 3 is quality control. Our industrial washers and dryers process as much as 450 pounds on a single load. Ink pens, markers, individual socks, personal items with dye can ruin a load of textiles during the wash process. The volume of linen that we process makes it challenging to remove all the damaged linen or unacceptable linen during the process. When items are being damaged or ruined during the process, it even complicates that challenge. Textile items have a normal life cycle that we use in calculating cost. When items are discarded prior to the end of their life cycle, it impacts our inventory levels and increases expense.
Number 2 is all about patient care. Communication with patients and their family members regarding those misplaced personal items absorbs more resources and reduces time for the actual patient care. Personal items such as cell phone, jewelry, dentures, eyeglasses, credit cards, money, identification, and some other cherished items are lost every day, adding stress to the patients and the care providers.
And the number 1 in our top 10 is the patient experience. If the patient has a negative experience at your facility, that impacts you, your facility, and those of us at COMTEX. The natural outcome of consistent bed stripping procedures impacts our rework expense, our carbon footprint, production equipment, work efficiencies, staff safety, customer satisfaction, quality control, patient care, and ultimately the patient experience. A simple way to start making an impact is to remember this simple phrase: only linen in linen-only bags. So please join us as we work together to give you and your patients the best experience possible.